Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Well, we can now share with you some of the pictures that you sent into our portal. All right, now we begin in Benin, Kebbi, the Kebbi state capital. And this photo shows a commercial motorcyclist carrying a cow on his bike as he heads to the market. Our eyewitness reporter calls on traffic regulators to stop this trend. Our next photo comes in from the Oshodi area of Lagos State, and it shows some Lagosians trying to remove fallen electricity wires. Our eyewitness reporter commends the brave volunteers, but cautions on the risk involved. Finally is this photo sent in from Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital, and it shows residents in the area queuing up to fetch water. Our eyewitness reporter says there's been water scarcity in some local council areas in the state and calls on the state government to end the scarcity. One issue that can be said to have dominated the 8th National Assembly in 2015 was the leadership tussle that commenced even before the election of principal officers of both chambers. Now, how has this affected the running of the legislature, and what role did the political parties play? Our correspondent Linda Akigwe examines these issues in this report.
There's compliance as regards the recommendation.
The most defining moment in the National Assembly in 2015 is a leadership crisis that rocked the Senate and the House of Representatives. It is not an exaggeration to say that the 8th Assembly had a rocky beginning. The drama that saw the emergence of Senator Bukola Saraki as Senate President and Senator Ike Ekweremadu as Deputy Senate President may be one for the history books. The emergence of Yakubu Dogara as Speaker and Yusuf Lasun as Deputy Speaker was also not without controversy. Weeks to the inauguration of the 8th Assembly, there was high-level politicking and horse trading for the seats of the principal officers. In the Senate, the major players who overtly indicated interest for the seat of a Senate President were Senator George Akume, Senator Bukola Saraki, and Senator Ahmed Lawan. In the House of Representatives, the major contenders for the seat of Speaker were Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, Yakubu Dogara. When it became apparent that the APC was not going to come out openly and endorse any candidates, and none of the major players were ready to shift ground, the party organized mock elections for the seats of the Senate and Deputy Senate President and Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. Senator Ahmed Lawan emerged as the party's choice for the position of Senate President.
We have called him to order.
The mock election in the House of Representatives also produced Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila as a choice for the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. On Inauguration Day proper, many Nigerians waited eagerly to see those who would emerge as principal officers of the National Assembly. At exactly 10 a.m. inside the Senate chamber, the acting clerk of the Senate began the inauguration ceremony. But it became evident that some lawmakers from the ruling APC were absent. It was later learned that the APC lawmakers went for a meeting with the party's leadership. The proceedings, however, went on without them. And just like that, Senator Bukola Saraki emerged unanimously as the Senate President. The election of a Deputy Senate President began immediately. With two candidates put forward, an election had to be conducted. And when the results were read, Senator Ike Ekweremadu was declared winner and immediately sworn in. Attention then shifted to the House of Representatives. In a tension-filled atmosphere, an election was held to decide who would become the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the lower chamber. After the votes were cast, Representative Yakubu Dogara emerged as the Speaker of the 8th Assembly. Weeks after the inauguration, the effects of the emergence of the principal officers of the National Assembly against party wishes lingered. The newly elected leaders tried to maintain order and peace in the chambers, but the APC and lawmakers who pitched their camp with the party's desired candidates were still smarting from the defeat. But did the leadership crisis have any effect on lawmaking in the National Assembly?
Yeah, it affected it greatly because looking at it now deeply, I discovered that my party actually mismanaged the situation from the beginning. At the beginning, of course, there were a lot of hiccups. But as it is today, I can assure you, and from what you have seen and Nigerians have seen, that has settled down. All those issues have fizzled out.
Some lawmakers told Channels Television that the leadership crisis in the National Assembly was fueled by the interference of political parties in the choice of who emerges as principal officers in the National Assembly.
What came out on the 9th of June was largely the fact the senators decided that they as senators want to choose who their Senate president is, and that nobody else will choose their Senate president. They will go out in line with the Constitution and our rule books and choose who they want.
The political party, whether APC or any party, should not go into deciding in public who should be elected. They should resolve their issues in-house without third party knowing.
The leadership crisis at the beginning of the 8th Assembly has thrown up some issues to ponder about, namely, should political parties interfere in whoever emerges as principal officers of the National Assembly, and should it entirely be left to the lawmakers themselves to elect their leaders? This debate is likely to continue and would come up again when the 8th Assembly ends and it's time to elect a fresh principal officer for the National Assembly.
Well, the 8th Assembly had a rough start at inception, but gradually they're beginning to stabilize. But one thing is clear, the National Assembly still maintains that they're united. Joining me now on the news at 10 is the Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms, Dr. Ezenwa Nwangu. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
Well, the 8th Assembly is young, in terms of the length of time in office. How do you think they've fared in terms of synergy?
Well, it's important to underscore the fear of mixmanship by the political parties themselves. They were unable to manage differences out of the camera view, and that itself heated up the National Assembly. There was the dodgy issue about hiding under, separation, the theory of separation of powers, and guarding the independence of the legislature, and that is a touchy issue for the National Assembly. If you followed from the return of democracy since 1999, it had consistently wanted to ensure that it warded off completely any outside interference in the choice of its leadership. But that is not to get out of the fact that they didn't come to the National Assembly on their own personal recognition. They rode on the platform of a political party, and that party has a role to play in, at times, stabilizing and ensuring that they also follow whatever their political party says. But that, like somebody has said, shouldn't be done, shouldn't be so visible that it offends the sensibility of those other people who are interested in ensuring the independence of. Now, for synergy, it's time that will eventually tell us, with the economy in doldrums the way it is, we will see how far this stability in the National Assembly will hold, because it's important that we're able to see that what binds them together may not necessarily be to represent the people the way we have seen them in time past, but that inability to advance their personal interests, which for many of them is very important, may be the reason which that synergy may not hold, rather than whether anybody interferes or not.
So in terms of the leadership tussle at the time and the appointment of principal officers, you think they've come out of that?
No, it's a smoldering fire. It's just there. With the level of ambition that you find, people are just watching out to see how they can take advantage of, even at the topmost level of the Senate, for instance. The issue of the credibility of that leadership has not been rested in terms of the issues that are coming up with the code of conduct and the court cases that they are not over yet, and I'm sure that people are just lying low to see how they can take advantage of that. And but for now, it seems that things are working well. How much they are able to resolve their differences will depend much more in terms of how the leadership is able to, in Nigerian parlance, carry everybody along.
All right, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms, Dr. Ezenwa Nwangu, thanks for joining us on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Now, when the news at 10 returns, motorists and commuters cry out over the state of the Jebba Road in Kwara. Do join us again.